Chaos Corona now comes with Corona Pattern, and in the next few minutes I'm going to show you how to tile 3D geometry onto a surface as easy as you tile a texture, all without increasing memory consumption, and this enables us to add complex details that will increase the realism of our renders. In this video we'll start by adding a Corona Pattern modifier, then we'll look at how pattern is distributed before looking at how to use the crop box and then some other uses for pattern. Corona Pattern is very straightforward to use, we just add the modifier to the objects we want to cover with pattern. To select our source mesh, we just click none under the pattern node and select the geometry we want repeated. And straight away we can see the source mesh is tiled across the object's surface. Notice the orange box that appears around our pattern node. This is the crop box and we can edit this to change how the pattern repeats, and we're going to take a look at this later on. If your pattern doesn't repeat as expected, you may need to reset the X form, which you can do under Utilities and Reset X form. We can use the tiling to increase or decrease the amount of times the pattern node repeats, and the way that's distributed is based off of the surface's UVW map, so let's take a deeper look into how that affects our pattern. In the same way a texture is mapped, the way the pattern is distributed is closely linked to the surface object's UVW mapping, so if it works with a texture, then more than likely it's going to work with pattern. So here we can see we have a 10 by 10 centimeter piece of geometry, and each of the squares on this checkerboard is 10 by 10 centimeters. So when we apply this piece of geometry as the pattern node, we can see that we have a piece of geometry in each square. When we have automatic pattern height checked on, the height of the pattern will stay in proportion to the pattern node, even when we change the tiling. If we uncheck this, then we can manually control the pattern's height. The pattern offset will offset the pattern relative to the base surface. And render base object will show the object we applied the pattern to. So if we turn it on, we will see the effects of the offset better. If we turn the offset down, we can see that now intersects with the base object. So at -1 it will be on the underside of our base surface, and +1 will be on top. Restrict on material ID gives us control of where the pattern will be distributed on our base object. So if we jump back down to the edit poly, we can see that I have these polys as material ID 2. And back in our pattern modifier, when I enable restrict on material ID, we can see the pattern only shows on material ID 1, and if I change it to 2, it will only show on 2. And now let's take a look at the crop box. So the piece of pattern we were actually using was cut from a larger piece of geometry, and if we want to use something like this, then we can use the crop box to define which area of our pattern node to repeat. And when we add this, we can see that the crop box automatically fits to the pattern. And we can jump down to the crop box sub-level, and when we move this around, we can see the effect this has on our pattern. We can also use the crop box size X, Y, and Z to define the size of our crop box. For example, 10 by 10 by 10 centimeters. The fit in buttons will reset the crop box, and one of the benefits of using a more repeated pattern node is that you can add noise and more variation to break up the tiling. And pattern doesn't just have to be used for fabrics, there are tons of other things we can create with it, and also be aware that we can add even more variation using multi-maps. And if you want to add grass and trees, another way to add complex geometry to surfaces is using Chaos Scatter. Or if you're new to Chaos Corona, then watch this getting started in under 5 minutes video.